Welcome to the Jewish Hour radio show. This is Gerry Posner, and once again, I'm delighted to be back here with a guest whom I believe you will find interesting, and more than that. But first, let me thank you, our loyal listeners, for helping to keep Jewish radio alive after a 75-year run. As you well know, this show was the child of the late Noach Whitman, and since his death, the show has been run by a group of volunteers. And we do need you and your continued support for this show. If you do want to help, you can do so by making a gift and contacting Sidney Halpern at 204-831-5170. Or you can reach me and I will arrange for your gift. As you know, your gift will get you a tax receipt, and as well, if you so desire, you can send a message to friends and family. Today, I have as my guest a woman whose name is the same as the last guest I interviewed. For those of you who heard the last interview, it was with Karen Freedman, and you may recall that she was the granddaughter of the former Sam and Brownie Freedman. Today, I have with me her aunt, Susan Freedman, a daughter of the same Sam and Brownie. And actually, it's no accident that she's on the show, as she is performing right now at the Toronto Fringe Festival this week, and the show is all about her family. So what time could be better than now to have her on the radio as my guest, especially since her show will run in Winnipeg very soon, and we'll get into that. Susan, welcome to the show, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Gerry. It's great to be here.
You know, some of my usual questions are in fact covered, or they're covered by, in fact, what's in your show. So I'll try not to get too carried away on that, but I will let you answer in any event for those that can't get to the show. Let's start with Susan Freedman. Where were you born? And
I was born in Winnipeg.
Winnipeg? Mm-hmm. And your parents were Sam and Brownie Freedman?
My parents were Sam and Brownie.
Who were the grandparents here?
Well, my grandparents were Sarah and Michael Udo on my mother's side, and Ada and Nathan Freedman on my father's side.
I take it you knew the grandparents.
I knew my Freedman grandparents, and I knew my Udo grandmother.
Okay, I got it. So you grew up in south side of Winnipeg?
I did. I grew up on Cordova Street, and I went to, Brock Corden and Queenston and River Heights and
422?
Kelvin. 425.
Oh, I knew I was in the ballpark.
Very close. Yeah, second house from Corden.
So you were a graduate of Kelvin High School.
Yeah, I was.
And I guess you had some Jewish education.
I did have some Jewish education, but not much.
Uh-huh.
I rebelled against that and
many
most
other
everything else. Yeah.
Aha. Well, what I remember about you as a young girl in high school, you had an interest, put it mildly, an inclination for the arts. How did that come about?
Well, my parents took a magazine called Theater Arts Magazine for as long as I can remember, and every month it came and it had a full Broadway play in it, the entire script. And I would read that every month, and I was just enamored of the whole thing. I started being in plays probably in about grade 4, my first outing being the king in The King Who Burned the Cakes. And, hey, I went on from there. Lots of breaks, but I have been involved in theater off and on most of my life.
And also musical theater.
Yeah.
I seem to recall you performing at the YMHA.
I did a number of outings on "I'm Just a Girl Who Can't Say No," one of my signature tunes.
Oh, that's right.
Accompanied by Sid Rabinovich.
I can still see you doing that.
Yes.
Maybe that's my best memory of you.
And "Kiss Me, Kate."
That was at university.
That was at university, and a little bit of Rainbow Stage.
Right. You were in Kiss Me, Kate.
I was Bianca in Kiss Me Kate.
I have to tell you this candidly. I was in Kiss Me Kate too, and so was my friend Irv Tesler. We had crushes on several of the girls in the show, but you were not one of them.
I'm hurt, but I've learned to get over that kind of stuff.
All right, so you graduated Kelvin, and then you went on to the university. Well, did you go on to the university? You say you were in the Glee Club, so you must have gone on to the university.
I was in Glee Club. I went to UBC. I was in Glee Club there. I went back to United College. But I never finished. I was going to be a stewardess and got very, very close, and then I got married.
Let's just step back a bit. When you were interested in this musical career, how did Sam and Brownie take to this? I mean, it couldn't have been a great excitement for them to know that their daughter wanted to pursue a career.
Oh, they were absolutely fine with it.
They were.
Oh yeah, for sure. They were very encouraging. They were encouraging anything. God, just do it.
Well, your dad, correct me here, was actually acted in university himself.
He did. Let me just tell you, he was, as we know, he was a man who multi-talented and great at a number of things. This was not one of them.
Oh, you mean the acting?
No, it was not one of them.
It was the name of an acting group. There was a name of the organization that they had at university. I just can't place it here. But he was one of them. I've seen the picture of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he loved it. He was a very good debater, and he was a fine speaker, and he was a terrific joke teller.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I want to not an actor.
No.
But they encouraged you.
Yeah, they did.
Considering now you have two siblings.
I do.
You have an older brother.
Older brother Martin and younger sister Phyllis.
They aren't like you at all.
Well, now let me just say, Martin played guitar at Pierre's restaurant
and
to work his way
through.
Too. Yes.
Yes, I know that because I was in a show with him.
Yeah.
I'm well
this
aware.
Self-same Guys and Dolls, right?
That's true.
And in fact, Martin would, given the right circumstances, I think, run away with the theater troupe.
But I would tell you this about your brother. For all the talents he may have theatrically, he cannot dance as well as you could.
Oh.
I'm sure of that. In any case, so you're
And Phyllis is a journalist.
Okay. So they followed more traditional career paths.
Yeah.
Than you did.
Yes.
Okay, so you were about to become a stewardess, and then bingo, you get married.
Yes.
That was to
Aaron Silverman.
Also a Winnipeg
Also
product.
a Winnipegger. And then I worked in advertising.
In Winnipeg?
No, we moved to Calgary quite soon after we got married, and I worked at the Bay as a copywriter and a copy editor. And then I had a long career with CBC.
CBC, in what capacity were you?
Well, I ended up being director of radio for Edmonton.
That's a big job.
It is indeed. Thank you, Gerry. Thank you.
I know it is a fact. I mean...
I started as an associate producer, and then I produced the morning show, then the afternoon, then executive producer. And so I worked there for 16 years.
Of course, when you're doing that, you're not performing.
No, I did, in fact, do cabaret in Calgary and played Sally Bowles during that period of time, but not much. It was, tough job.
Right.
Took a lot of work. And then there were big cuts in CBC, and Bill and I moved to London for 3 years.
Well, we better step back here because everybody that's been listening to this so far is identifying only with you and Aaron.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, well, right. All right, so we'll go through husbands one by one. Is that the way you want to handle this?
I just want everyone to get the picture here. So you were in Alberta for a number of years.
Yes, I was in
20 years?
20 years,
And then during that time you were married with Aaron Silverman, and then you weren't married with him. Mm-hmm. And you ultimately, I guess, were a single parent for a while.
Yeah, for a little bit.
You had two children?
2 children.
Who are they?
They are Alan Silverman and Jennifer Silverman.
Okay.
And Alan is in Vancouver, and he's in post-production sound.
Followed his mother.
And Jennifer's an actress in New York.
Whoa.
So
you had a significant influence on your children, I guess it's fair to say. Wow, that's all right. So you were in Alberta. You got a big job in Edmonton, and by then maybe you were married again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So I married for a second time,
right.
a short, about 3 years.
Okay.
And then about 5 years after that, 5 or 6 years after that, I got married again to my current husband, Bill Galloway.
Who's, aside from all else, is connected to the Fringe Festival show.
Well, in fact, he was a lawyer for lots and lots of years in Alberta, and after he has been my stage manager. This is as they say, part-time work. and for this show, he's operating the slides.
Yes,
he's a slide technician.
I observed him actually.
Yes.
So you now ended up. You left. I guess you left Alberta and left and moved to Vancouver. Am I right?
Well,
there?
what happened was there were big cuts at CBC. They closed Calgary television, and we went to London, England for 3 years.
Oh, there's a stint I didn't know.
Yeah, it was a very, very fabulous time. We had a great time. I took a marketing program called CAM, Communications, Advertising and Marketing, which is the umbrella organization for that kind of stuff for the UK. And then, I did lots of theater and did lots of classes of all kinds. And then came back, moved to Vancouver, and I became marketing director for the Fringe in Vancouver.
The Fringe Festival. What year would that have been? Do you have any idea?
That was 95.
So you had to promote the Fringe.
I did indeed, and got lots of great sponsors for them.
Right.
And
how long did you do that?
I did that for 4 years. And then what happened was as a result of it, of course, I went to a lot of Fringe shows. And at one show, I walked in and a guy did his show entirely in the nude and with no script. After that experience, and believe me, I spent the entire show looking down, as did everybody else, I thought, I can do this, And this was in about 98. So I stopped being marketing director, and I wrote my first show.
And what was that called?
That was called 57 and Still Lying About My Weight.
All right. Now, it's one thing to write a script, which in itself is a challenge. It's another thing to even perform it. Of course, the Fringe, as I understand, it's a bit of a lottery, and you never know if you're going to get it.
Well, now it's 100% a lottery. At that time, it was first come, first served, because there just weren't as many people who wanted to get in. Right. But now, it's incredible. Hundreds, especially in Toronto, hundreds and hundreds of people want to get in, and it's absolutely the luck of the draw, and in public, because otherwise nobody would believe it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was going to ask you about that because, if I'm not mistaken, this is your third sort of show that you've had in the Fringe.
Fourth.
Sorry, four.
Yeah, this is my fourth one-woman show.
Okay, so the first one what you told me was...
57 and Still Lying About My Weight. Then 60 with More Lies About My Weight. Right. Then 64 and No More Lies.
Right.
And now Spilling Family Secrets.
So that's 4 shows. You wrote them all.
I did indeed.
And where did you perform? What cities were you at in the other shows?
Oh, Montreal and Toronto and Winnipeg and Edmonton and Calgary and Saskatoon and Vancouver. Yeah. I mean, the thing is this.
Well, you've had good luck on the draw then.
They aren't all in the same year.
That's
For example, this year I'm doing Toronto and Winnipeg and Victoria. I would love to do Edmonton and Montreal, and I'll try again next year and see which ones I get in. So if you do a show, sometimes it takes you 3 years to get into everything you want to get into. If you're really unlucky, maybe you never get in.
I'm with Susan Freedman, and Susan is performing in the Toronto Fringe Festival right now at the time that we're doing this interview, but when this show is played live, you should know that this show will be on in Winnipeg. Susan, why don't you just tell the listening audience for exactly when the show will be heard? We will be on in Winnipeg. It might be a good idea.
Sure, thank you. It's first place. It's at the Cinematheque.
Cinematheque.
Okay. So that's right in the heart of the Fringe, and it's on the 17th, the 18th, the 19th, the 21st, the 23rd, the 25th, and the 26th of July.
Right.
And, the Fringe website has got it all. My own website, which is susanfreedman.ca, has got all of the times as well.
Also, wait a second, you're also performing in Victoria.
I am.
When's that?
Well, Victoria, bless its heart, I know that the Fringe is August 21st to 31st, but they haven't given me dates yet.
Okay.
So within that 10-day period, I'll probably get, 6 or 7 shows, and they'll be up on my website as well.
So okay, let's step now. How do you conceive these plays? I mean, that's a challenge to sort of to create these Fringe plays. How do you do that?
Well, let me start at the end with this one. This one was fabulous because I have these wonderful, wonderful letters that belong to my parents that my mother was custodian of. And when she died, she gave them to me. And I read them, laughter, tears, and I knew that I wanted everybody in the family to have the opportunity to read them too. And I thought, I can't pass these letters around. They're too fragile. They're 80 years old. So I knew I had to transcribe them. And of course, in my head, I was thinking, I can do a show about this. I can use these. But first, I had to have it all there. So I spent months transcribing.
That's a job.
Yeah, transcribing letters with not the best handwriting, And then my mother, who had been looking at them in the last year of her life, mostly had the wrong letters in the wrong envelopes, you know what I mean? So there was a bunch of work sort of getting it sorted. And then I just edited and then started to kind of interweave some of my own stuff and some of my daughter's stuff in it to kind of make it intergenerational, and I think try and show how we are very much affected by our parents and their experiences.
Because it is a leap, it seems to me, to read one's family letters, like actually your parents' I guess love letters.
Absolutely.
And to say to yourself, oh, well, this will be a show for the Fringe. I mean, you could sort of conjure the scenario where somebody's standing up there and reading a bunch of letters. I think you would lose an audience.
Well, you would.
Yeah.
You absolutely would. So, in the first place, because this is my 4th show,
right.
This is what I do. I mean, this is what I've been doing for 15 years now. Right. So, that's what I hoped anyway. And I got them down and kept reducing them and thinking, maybe this will work, maybe this will work. And I worked with a dramaturge, and with her help, I felt like I got it where people, would stay awake for the letters. Because, in fact, it's funny. Somebody said to me, oh, they're almost like emails now. Well, I mean, they are short because they have to be short. You're not going to sit in an audience and watch and listen to me read long letters. I mean, that's incredibly boring. So they have to. And I just hope they got the essence of Brownie and Sam and their relationship.
Well, in my view, they absolutely did. But so what would be then the impetus for the other shows that you did?
Well, okay, the first one was I thought, I can do a show, And I really did start with growing up. What I wanted to do always was write comedies, and I think that's what I did.
You did it well.
And I felt like, the Fringes was more than now filled with 20 and 30-year-olds who are sort of giving their take on the world and the kinds of things that are affecting them and are important to them. And I thought, hey, wait a minute. How about us?
Right.
Come on.
Right. Yes, I think based on the shows I've seen you in, while I think your show would be of interest to any age, I certainly think an older person would really identify with it more than anybody.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think that is true in the past shows. But it's interesting about this show. I had a 10 and a 14-year-old who came up to me after a show and sort of said, "Oh, it was so lovely." And I've had very young couples there, which is very gratifying. I had no expectations. And in fact, my expectations were you were my audience,
That's right. Well, that would have been mine.
But it seems for this one that it is a little bit broader appeal. And in fact, my worry was, I hope this is not just about me and just about my family, but I'm hearing people identify in a bunch of different ways.
Well, the approach that I've taken when I've sent out an email about your show is that this is a show that will appeal to anybody of any age, but it will be of particular interest to anyone who's a little over 50 or up. And if you came from Winnipeg, it's a bonus.
All the better.
Yeah, because it's got names and places and that will be relevant to people from. But anybody, I know people that have seen the show already from Toronto, and they loved it. So there you go.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. But so you had some success, I guess, in the three previous shows.
Oh, I did. Yes, absolutely.
And you even, I guess they even have some reviews of these shows.
Yes,
and
they do.
I saw a pretty positive one about spilling family secrets.
Yeah, there have been a couple of very nice reviews. Yeah.
So you had the draw, and you got into these three places. So you're away to the races.
It's enough, for 1 year. Thank you. It's 6 weeks on the road.
Yeah. I guess this isn't your last show.
Well, I don't know. I do know that I'm pleased with it. It's people are liking it, so I will try and get into some other places next year, and maybe even the next year. By then I'll be 100. I'm not sure, Gerry. We'll see if I've got more to talk about.
You know what I like about what you've done, aside from all else, is that you've taken something that's from the past, and you've kind of given it life again. I mean, the letters would be of interest to your family, of course, if nothing else had happened to them. But I think you've injected them into a wider audience, that you put them up front for everyone to see. And I somehow get the view, and I guess we'll never know the answers, that Sam and Brownie would get a big kick out of this whole thing.
I hope you're right. I kind of think that they would. That if they were watching the audience, that would be a big deal, and people clapped and people liked it. Then I'd think, hey, they might be pretty pleased.
So tell me, your sister and brother. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you think they'd need to have some? Wouldn't you think that? Wouldn't you think they would need to have some say in this whole thing? After all, you're revealing family secrets. They must have had to give you the green light on this.
Well, in fact, the show is Spilling Family Secrets.
That's the name of the show.
Yeah. So, my sister at one point said to me, "Would Mother approve?" And I said, "Probably not." And my feeling was this, that I was pretty confident that I was going to say nothing that wasn't sensitive, nothing that was really embarrassing, nothing that was disrespectful. And in fact, Phyllis, who is, very protective of my parents, she will have seen the Toronto show 5 times, okay? She loves it. Right. Martin will go in Winnipeg, and I hope will approve. But hey, listen, she gave me the letter.
That's right. Let's not forget that.
Right.
She didn't give them to Martin. She didn't give them to Phyllis. I get that. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Freedman and the Udo clans, because I think our listeners, those are 2 names in the Jewish community of Winnipeg that are long established. I think Udo probably was once Udovich or something like that.
Probably.
But Sam and Brownie, was it tough? Was it hard for you to grow up in a home where your father is a judge. I mean, I kind of compare it to a child of clergy, where you sort of got to be on good behavior. You know, people are watching. Well, that's the Chief Justice's daughter.
Yeah. I think that was probably happening. But, you know, we grow up where we grow up. We have no basis for comparison at the time. You know, in a few respects, I suppose I fulfilled expectations. In many, I did not, you know. So and I think everybody kind of got used to that. And my parents got used to me too.
You know, your father had a reputation, aside from his stature as a judge, aside from the fact he was the chancellor of the University of Manitoba, esteemed positions. But he was well known as the guy who could, a speaker par excellence. You couldn't top Sam Freedman. And on top of that, he was not above telling off-color stories. I just want to know if you were aware of that.
Aware. I heard them my whole life. You know, Danny Finkelman told me one the other day that I would never repeat for sure on radio. And you know what, I think I'd heard that one too from one of my fathers. But, I heard his limericks. We heard his jokes all the time. And I know his domestic relations classes were hugely popular because I think it was, you know, the foundation of a lot of his great stories.
Great sense of humor. Now, on the other hand, I also think your mother should get some credit here, because not so much with respect to the stories, but I recall that she was pretty much his memory.
And the archivist, Gerry, that.
Shoot.
She kept everything. She had scrapbooks and photo books of absolutely everything. Listen, there wouldn't be a letter to edit.
Right.
Of course. No, she was very, very sharp.
And she could, when they would go meet people at a party and your dad was searching for a name, she was pretty good at it.
She was pretty good, but I will tell you, he remembered, you know, his grade 4 teacher and,
Of course, my father always used to say that the one that had the best memory of them all in your family was your dad's brother, Max Freedman.
Yeah, Max. Max was, well, you know, he was kind of a genius. He was a very, very, very brilliant guy. Absolutely.
Your father was so outstanding as a speaker. I remember as a kid, as a teenager, I was invited to speak at the same program as he was. We were on the same, after the dinner, we were on the same dais, and my dad said to me when he found out that I was having to speak at the same dinner as Sam Freedman, he says to me, well, if Sam is speaking before you, that'll be like going from the sublime to the ridiculous. And it was true. Anyways, a lot of people who had no contact with your father in any other way, but they heard him speak, that you were mesmerized by him. Anyways, it was a very rich family that you come from, I would say. And we haven't even talked about the Udos, which were, the Udos were their own way, in their own right, pretty impressive as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so what brings you to? Would you go back to Winnipeg at all?
Well, Martin and Roxy are there, and I have nieces there. Old friends there, you know, as all these good Winnipeggers, you keep your old friends.
Who are some of your old friends?
Gail Spivak, Anita Neville, Maxine Kaufman, Beverly McCaffrey, and, you know, Roxy and Martin are, you know, among other things, my friends.
Well, they should be. No, you're very privileged to be able to do something at an age when most people are not.
Feel
to do
so
something
lucky.
that you enjoy.
I feel so lucky. And, you know, I feel especially lucky to do this show.
I'm going to say it right now. Everybody get out there. I think if you have the chance to see the show in Winnipeg and in Victoria, you should.